There's a kind of silence that hurts more than words ever could. It's the silence you get when someone you once trusted stops showing up. They don't fight with you. They don't explain. They just stop caring, or at least, that's how it seems. Suddenly, the person who used to ask if you've eaten today barely acknowledges your presence. The shift is quiet, but it shakes your whole world. At first, you try to rationalize it. Maybe they're just busy. Maybe they're going through something. Maybe you did something wrong. You replay conversations. You overthink every moment. But as time passes, the pattern becomes clearer. This isn't temporary. This is who they've chosen to be now. And even worse, they act like it doesn't affect them. Like you never mattered. That's where the real pain lives. Not in their absence, but in their indifference. You want to scream. You want to ask them why. You want to know how they can turn off their feelings like a switch, while you're left carrying the weight of it all. But deep down, you already know they're not going to give you the answers you're looking for. Because pretending not to care is their way of protecting their own ego, of dodging accountability, of avoiding the truth that maybe they just weren't ready for the version of you that kept showing up honestly. But listen to me carefully. This is the part where most people break. They chase. They beg. They try to reignite a flame that someone else has already walked away from. And that's exactly where you have a choice. A quiet, internal choice that changes everything. You can either keep pouring your energy into someone who doesn't value it, or you can take it back and become the kind of person who no longer needs external validation to feel whole. It's not easy. Detaching from someone who made you feel seen, heard, loved, it cuts deep. But real strength isn't loud. It's not angry outbursts or emotional revenge. Real strength is walking away without making a scene. It's choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion. It's sitting with the silence and saying, I will heal here. Because here's the truth you might not want to hear right now. Not everyone who comes into your life is meant to stay. Some people are just passing through, sent to teach you something you couldn't have learned on your own. And often, those people will leave the hardest lessons behind, the ones that make you question your worth, your judgment, your heart. But in those moments, you are not being punished, you are being rescued. There's a quiet transformation that happens when you stop begging for clarity and start accepting reality. At first, it feels like defeat, like giving up, like letting them win. But slowly, you begin to see it differently. You begin to see that walking away from someone who no longer values your presence is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's you finally realizing that your peace is too expensive to be traded for temporary attention. And yes, it hurts. The nights are long. Your mind plays cruel tricks, reminding you of the laughter you shared, the conversations that went until 2 a.m., the way they once looked at you like you were the center of their universe. But memory is a selective artist. It paints in the colors of what we wish things still were, not what they truly became. Because if you look closely, you'll remember the moments when your gut told you something was off. The times you felt small, confused, unimportant, but stayed anyway, hoping things would return to how they once were. They didn't, and that's okay. Because staying strong doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop forcing. You stop negotiating with people who only show up when it's convenient. You stop explaining your value to those committed to misunderstanding it. And that kind of strength, it builds slowly in the quiet hours of solitude when no one is watching and the world is still. It's in those moments that you meet the most important person you'll ever encounter, yourself. You begin to realize that your worth was never meant to be proven to someone else. It was meant to be remembered by you. And the moment you stop seeking closure from others, you create space for a new kind of clarity, one that isn't shaped by their version of the story, but by your own inner truth. So let them pretend not to care. Let them wear the mask of indifference. Eventually, they'll have to face the emptiness they tried to hide behind cold responses and passive silence. But you'll be miles ahead, healing, growing, building a life rooted in self-respect and inner calm. And that's when the real shift happens. Not when they come back, not when they realize what they lost, but when you no longer need them to. Because true power is not found in controlling someone else's perception of you. It's found in mastering your own response to it. When you stop needing them to act right, you start living right. And when you stay grounded in your own energy, no one else's behavior can shake your foundation. You'll notice something strange as time passes. The quieter you become, the more the world seems to speak. You start noticing how much of your strength was wasted trying to read unreadable minds, decode mixed signals, and prove yourself to someone who wasn't even paying attention. And when that noise fades, what's left is a kind of clarity that only silence can bring. People think detachment is cold, but it's not. Detachment is choosing yourself without anger, without bitterness. It's standing still while the storm passes, knowing it no longer belongs to you. It's watching someone walk away and still wishing them well, because you've made peace with the idea that not everyone will understand your heart, and not everyone deserves to. There's power in not reacting, in not chasing, in not defending your place in someone else's life. The truth is, if they truly valued you, you'd never have to question your importance. You'd never have to guess if they care. Real connections don't leave you confused. They don't play games. They don't disappear when it's inconvenient. And if someone has to pretend not to care just to feel in control, then that tells you more about their insecurity than your worth. You don't have to shrink to be loved. You don't have to remain silent to keep the peace. And you definitely don't have to beg to be understood. Those who genuinely care will always find a way to show it, without making you dig through layers of doubt and silence. This is why you stay strong, not because you're unbothered, but because you've learned to choose your energy wisely, because you've finally understood that emotional maturity isn't reacting to every trigger. It's knowing when to step away, protect your peace, and let silence speak for you. And over time, the things that once shattered you begin to teach you. The pain becomes a mirror. The silence becomes your teacher. You begin to realize that every person who pretended not to care was simply showing you how deeply you need to care for yourself. And once you do, once you start nurturing the parts of you that once felt invisible, once you treat yourself the way you wished others did, you become unshakable. Not cold, not distant, just deeply aligned with your own worth. You stop running toward people, and instead, you build a life so whole that those who once left are now the ones trying to find a way back in. And when they do try to come back, when their curiosity outweighs their pride, when they notice your silence has more power than their presence ever did, you'll feel something unexpected. Not satisfaction, not revenge, just peace. Because by then, you've already moved beyond the place that once held you hostage. You no longer crave their attention, their explanation, their version of closure. You've already given that to yourself. You've learned to stand in the storm and not be moved. To hear silence and not feel ignored. To be left behind and not feel less. That kind of strength can't be faked, borrowed, or gifted by anyone else. It's earned through heartbreak, solitude, and the kind of healing that doesn't look pretty on the outside, but rewires you from the inside. That's what happens when you stay strong while they pretend not to care, because pretending is exactly what it is, a performance, a mask worn by someone afraid to confront what they feel, or too proud to admit they miss you. And while they're caught in the illusion of control, you've chosen a different path, a quieter one, a wiser one that doesn't depend on anyone else's recognition to feel full. And this is when something powerful starts happening. Your focus returns. Your energy sharpens. You start working on the things you neglected while you were busy trying to fix a one-sided connection. You start investing in your mind, your goals, your body, your growth. Every part of you that was once stretched thin begins to recover, slowly becoming whole again. People start to notice the change, not just in how you look, but in how you carry yourself. Your boundaries get clearer, your standards rise. You stop entertaining confusion, mixed signals, emotional games. You're no longer impressed by empty words or temporary interest. You're moved by consistency, depth, presence. And the world responds to that version of you differently, because people can feel when you've done the work. They can sense when your peace is no longer up for negotiation. And the same ones who once dismissed your value will begin to see what they couldn't recognize before, often too late. But here's the thing, you won't wait for them to get it. You won't pause your journey to be re-evaluated by someone who couldn't see your worth the first time, because now you're finally building for yourself, not to be chosen, but to be whole.